Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session, What's in an Undergraduate Financial Aid Package. We have the pleasure to receive today Ryan Geiger, who is going to talk about the financial aid. Before we get started with Ryan, I would like to introduce Education USA. Maybe some of you already know a network. For you who are not familiar with Education USA, we are a global network of advising centers from the U.S. State Department Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. In the region, this is a webinar that is live streamed in the region, NCAC region, North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. We have 56 education advising centers, where we provide free access to introductory information on U.S. study. We invite you to find your advising center so you can receive personal attention. You can do that by going to our webpage, educationusa.state.gov. We work with students, higher education institutions, governments, and NGOs. We provide unbiased, accurate, comprehensive information about the full range of accredited U.S. higher education institutions. All our services are free. We provide advice in the centers, we do outreach activities, and during this time that we are at home, we provide virtual services. We do one-on-one virtual sessions. We provide webinars like this one that are open and free to the public. We also participate in virtual fairs and do activities like our workshops and one-on-one sessions, seminars in the virtual mode. So I would like you to invite to answer this poll. So you let us know, where are you joining us from? Are you in North America, in Central America, in the Caribbean, or are you in other regions? Thank you. So we have most of you joining from North America, some of you joining from Central America. It's nice to know that you are also joining from other regions. Thank you for joining us today. So here you can see the results. Thank you for participating. And now I would like to introduce our speaker. Ryan Geiger has been working with international students at universities in the United States for over 10 years. He is currently serving in the role of Northeast Region International Student Advisor and Global Education Coordinator at the Pennsylvania State University. Ryan advises international students on immigration and a wide variety of other concerns. He provides programming to acclimate international students into the university and build intercultural competence among all Penn State students, faculty, and staff. Ryan is currently pursuing his PhD in American Studies with research interest in wealth and poverty and contemporary immigration. Thank you, Ryan, and welcome. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elvira. It certainly is a pleasure to join you and so many familiar faces, friends, and colleagues from Education USA advising centers from the Northeast, Central America, and Caribbean office. Today, we are going to discuss understanding undergraduate financial aid at universities in the United States. So I broke out this presentation into the following topics: understanding what the cost of a university is in the United States, financial aid types, undergraduate aid, special aid types, and then an overview about Penn State University. And then afterwards, I'd be happy to entertain some questions. So as you begin your search for a college and university, it's important to know in the United States, there are many choices that you have. There are over 5,200 different types of universities within the United States. That gives you a lot of options, but that can also create a lot of confusion. So one of the things I recommend doing first is understanding your university's tuition and fees. If a university is a public university, they often will charge tuition based on residency. If you live in the state, or you will pay one fee structure. If you're from outside of the state or outside of the country, you will often pay a different fee structure. Private universities differ from public universities in that they often have a one flat rate tuition fee, and the cost is the same irregardless of where you study or what program you study. Some universities utilize differential pricing models. For example, engineers in the programs in the STEM field, such as science, engineering, and business, may have some higher associated costs, particularly with the courses that are offered at upper levels than, say, some humanities courses or social science courses. Therefore, you may find a university may have a flat rate tuition for their first or second year, but the tuition, depending on your major, may be different during your third and fourth year of your program. Another thing to consider is, what are the campus fees? Some campuses may charge additional technology, student services and student activities fees, and various fees that apply to enhancing your student experience. The College Navigator website is provided by the United States Department of Education, and they provide information on all of the universities in the United States. A simple Google search of College Navigator will direct you to that site, and that site is very useful because it has a lot of search categories that you can use to narrow down your search for the United States. Not only by academic program, you can do it by geographic location, you can do it based on the type of degree you want to seek, and you can also put in a range of tuition that is within your price range. And this search function can take over 5,000 universities and narrow it down to a list that is more manageable of, maybe 10 or fewer that you can actually look into without having to spend as much time researching. Next slide, please. One other piece of advice I also tell students to do is calculate the total cost of your education, not just from one year to the next, but through all 4 years of your degree. Other educational expenses can include a computer or other technology you might need, or perhaps a tablet, your books that you will need for your classes, student health insurance, living expenses, whether you live on campus or off campus, phone, food, travel and transportation, both travel and transportation within the United States and travel and transportation to return home. We don't expect you to be a student 24 hours a day. We assume you will do something to relax and enjoy yourself. So you may want to factor in the cost of entertainment. And if you are married or have children, you'll want to consider the additional costs associated with bringing a spouse or dependent children to the United States with you while you are studying. Next slide, please. When understanding financial aid types within the context of US universities, there are three main types. Institutional aid, which is money that the university that you are applying to or admitted to will provide for you. There are scholarships and grants. These can be administered through your university, but are often funded through alumni or other parties. The funds are just controlled by the university. And then lastly, there are private funding sources and third-party loans. Next slide, please. Institutional aid. Institutional aid can come in a number of forms. There's merit-based aid. This can be academic, arts, athletic. It's often determined based on your high school grades. Many schools who offer merit-based aid require you to take the SAT or ACT exam to qualify for this type of aid. There's also need-based financial aid. This is usually a predetermined amount that a student can apply for, and there is a review committee or a review process that determines your financial need. Some schools may have a special application and require financial documents to support your need-based application. Some schools may not require that. And then lastly, student employment. F1, M1, and J1 students are permitted to work on campus up to 20 hours per week during school, and they're usually allowed to work up to 28 hours per week during school breaks. Next slide, please. Scholarships and grants. Many professional organizations offer scholarships to university students. They can either have an independent search or they can donate money directly to a university and the university can facilitate the search. Major corporations such as BP, Chevron, and Coca-Cola offer scholarships for students that have different types and methods to apply for. Education USA has various financial aid and scholarship opportunities, which I encourage you to talk with an advisor about for more information. And when we talk about scholarships, I advise to be careful of scams. While there are many organizations that want to help you, sometimes there are organizations or people that will appear as though they are a scholarship aid source, and they're really just trying to take advantage of you. You want to avoid applying for a scholarship that asks you to pay for upfront or provide financial information or bank account information upfront without having any type of award offered to you. Next slide, please. Private and third-party loans. These are usually the last resort that I would recommend a student to because they have some difficulty to obtain, and the financial responsibility to pay them back is different than institutional aid and scholarship and grants. Private loans are usually offered through commercial banks within the United States or abroad. To apply for a private loan, you may have to have a co-signer or repayment guarantor within the United States before a bank in the United States will consider loaning you money for your education. If you seek a private loan from a bank for your education, you will want to consider what the interest rates on the loans are, as well as the length of the repayment plan and when you have to begin paying those loans back. I also recommend that you look into loans from your government at low interest or no interest. And a few search options that I have found that can be helpful over my career. Internationalstudent.com has a loan search tool that you can utilize. And Empower Financing is another student loan search engine that you could utilize. Next slide, please. Depending on how many scholarships you receive or what the total amount of your scholarship award is, there may be tax liabilities on the financial aid. The United States Tax Code has a definition for what is called a qualified education expense. A qualified education expense includes tuition, lab fees, and some other fees. It does not include things such as housing, meals, travel and transportation, or health insurance. Because these extra costs associated with your studies, such as housing, meals, travel, and health insurance, have a monetary value, the United States government will view this as income. Some universities will pay the tax liability for you, so you don't have the additional cost. However, some do not. And you are personally responsible for paying the liability on the taxes that would be assessed for scholarships exceeding qualified education expenses. That tax rate is a flat 14% on all financial aid that exceeds the cost of living at your university. Next slide, please. Elvira, you're on mute.
Thank you, Ryan. We're going to do a poll here to see if you are paying attention. So here's the poll. And so this is true or false. Students may work up to 28 hours per week during school and during breaks. Is that true or that it is false? Okay, we have some people getting the right answer. And actually, let's see if we have some more people trying to have the right answer. Okay, so the answer is false. Students may work up to 20 hours per week during the school year when classes are in place. And when you have vacations during breaks, you can work up to 28 hours. Thank you for your responses. And I'm going to share the results here. And thank you for participating. And we continue with Ryan.
Thank you, Elvira. There are some case studies that, depending on where you're from or depending on your individual circumstances, they may be useful information for you to have. There are some instances where students in the United States can apply for temporary protected status, which is an application through the United States government that would allow you additional privileges that students on F, M, or J visas would not normally qualify for, such as additional employment benefits off campus and other financial aid resources. Students from certain countries where there is political unrest, international incidents, economic crisis, or natural disasters may qualify for temporary protected status. Only the United States government can make a determination on which countries' students will be eligible for temporary protected status. And then lastly, many universities have established student assistance funds. I have worked at several universities over the last 10 years, and these student assistance funds have been able to help out international students in many ways where the students did not always have the money. At one institution, the parent of a student passed away, and this emergency student fund was able to purchase the flight ticket for the student to go back home to spend time with her family for the funeral. They've had students whose apartments have been broken into and their books were stolen. We've been able to use the student assistance funds to replace their books, and even in one case, a student's computer, so that they would not have an interruption in their studies. More recently, with the global COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of universities are seeing a need for assistance, particularly from international students. Some of the federal relief money that was allocated to universities was specifically intended to help out international students who have been particularly impacted by COVID-19. Next slide, please. In the era of COVID-19, there are a few things that I recommend that you also will want to consider. Not all the US embassies and consulates around the world have reopened. While we anticipate they will over the next few weeks and months, should the COVID-19 pandemic continue to be a problem and embassy operations are limited or not open, you may want to consider, should you begin your studying online? One benefit to studying online is you can have additional savings, such as travel and living expenses. But one other thing to consider is if you receive scholarships, either from your university or a third-party source, will the scholarships cover online education? Another consideration is, should you start your education at a community college? Community colleges are a great opportunity for students to begin their education in the United States and explore what college life is like within the United States. Community colleges often offer degrees, particularly technical degrees and 2-year degrees that are not offered at 4-year colleges and universities, and their tuition costs are often significantly lower than for traditional 4-year colleges and universities. You may also want to explore if there are opportunities to begin your studies through a US university in your own country. Several universities in the United States have campuses set up abroad or have partnerships with universities in other countries. You could begin your studies in your own country for 1 or 2 semesters and then prepare to return to the United States. And then to highlight on special student assistance in the era of COVID-19. Penn State University has created some special initiatives to help our students in the era of COVID-19. In March of this year, our university transitioned from in-person operations to completely online operations. During that time, all of our student employees continued to be paid their student hourly wages. Even those students who were not able to work continued to be paid. This was both domestic and international students. Global programs within Penn State University provided $35,000 in aid grants to students who applied from all of our campuses. And the larger General Student Care and Advocacy Fund received 444 additional requests that were granted to international students to help them be able to continue their studies arrange for emergency transportation home, take care of healthcare, and other things like that. The reason I share this with you is, there's a lot of things that you can plan for when you're studying in the United States, but almost always there is something that will happen that you cannot plan for. In these unusual circumstances, I want you to know that many universities are prepared to be able to provide temporary assistance. This assistance may not be able to get you all the way to your degree completion, but it is designed to help you get through a rough period until circumstances stabilize and you are able to continue your studies without the assistance. Next slide, please. Now, I'd like to share a little bit of information about Penn State University. Many of you may have heard about Penn State University because of our athletic programs or academic programs. But Penn State University was founded in 1855 prior to the American Civil War. It was originally established as a farmers' college, and we taught agriculture courses. Fast forward nearly 160 years to today, and Penn State University is a top 100 university in the world. We are ranked within the top 100 by the QS, the Shanghai, and the Times Higher Education listing, making us a top 1% university worldwide. We have 24 campuses spread across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, with our flagship campus at University Park, which hosts 47,000 students. Our total campus enrollment between online and our Commonwealth campuses is 100,000 students. We have just under 10,000 international students representing over 140 countries, and we are eager to see more students from North America, Central America, and the Caribbean add to our diverse student population. We receive nearly $990 million in research funding annually, whether that's research from the United States or foreign governments, or from private enterprise. And we are the leading producer of chief executive officers in the world. Next slide, please. This is a map showing all of Penn State's campuses throughout the state of Pennsylvania. You can see they are spread in some urban areas in cities such as Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and our main campus is almost in the center of the state at University Park. I point this out because when you begin your search, you may see that other universities have satellite campuses. The satellite campuses often will provide the same superior quality education, but they will offer a slightly lower tuition. You can complete part or all of your degree, in some cases, on a satellite or Commonwealth campus. The benefit to doing that is within Penn State University, at a particular Commonwealth campus outside of University Park, you could save between $5,000 and $10,000 a year in tuition and living expenses, totaling up to $40,000 over the course of your studies. Some of you may think that if you don't attend Penn State University Park, you won't have a real Penn State degree. Or if you don't attend the main campus at another university, it won't be a real degree from that university. Let me tell you here today, that is not true. A degree from Penn State University is a degree from Penn State University, whether you study it at our University Park campus, or our Abington campus, or our Berks campus where I am headquartered, or if you study through our World Campus in your home country. Your degree will say Penn State University. This is similar for many other universities in the United States that offer satellite campuses. So if you see a university with a satellite campus, please don't think that the satellite campus is not going to provide the same educational opportunity, because it will. It will often provide you a significant financial savings. Next slide, please. Here are some pictures of Penn State University. The black and white photo in the top left is the start of our first college. And you can see students there learning plowing technologies to plant seeds and grain to harvest. If you look at the bottom, the full color photo, this full color photo does not even capture all of our campus. The campus is very, very large, and it would take you well over 1 hour to walk from one end to the other of our main campus. I point this out because while our main campus is where a lot of our Division I sports are held, it is very large with almost 50,000 students. The experience you get at our main campus will differ from the experience you will get at one of our Commonwealth campuses. We have the same superior teachers and similar student experiences at our campuses. The difference, in addition to tuition costs at our campuses, is that you will often experience smaller class sizes and more individualized opportunities with your professors. Next slide, please. Penn State University has the largest alumni network with over 700,000 active alumni around the world. We have alumni chapters in Saudi Arabia, China, Korea, and Japan, to name a few. Several of these alumni associations have provided alumni networking opportunities for career mobility as well as educational mobility. And some of our alumni associations have established additional scholarship funds for students studying from that country. Next slide, please. And in a more recent poll, Penn State University is the #2 producer of chief executive officers in the United States. This is a poll that was conducted by LinkedIn, and they evaluated chief executive officers' profiles on LinkedIn, looking at their experience and their education. And what they found is that the leading number of chief executive officers did not come from Harvard. They did not come from the Wharton School of Finance, but they came from Penn State University. So if you are looking for an opportunity to excel in business, Penn State University will do that. The current chief executive officer of Nike Sports Equipment is a Penn State University graduate. Next slide, please. I want to thank you for your time, and now I would be happy to entertain questions.
Okay. Just a minute, please. Okay, Ryan, we have several questions for you. Thank you for sending your questions. The first question is, I play an instrument. Are there scholarships for playing instruments?
Yes. Some universities, particularly those that have music programs, will offer music scholarships. Penn State University has the Blue and White Band, which you may have seen perform at several of our sporting events. or you may have even seen on famous television parades in the United States. Those students audition to be in the blue and white band, but if they are accepted, they receive scholarship money for that. We also have concert bands and other band performances that if you play an instrument, you could get additional scholarship money from your institution.
Okay, let me ask another one. Just a minute, please. So if a university offers need-based aid to international students, if I am from a low-income family and I get in, does that mean they will give me a full ride? How do I know if a university offers need-based aid for international students?
That's something that you would want to ask during the admissions process, and either the international office at the school or the financial aid office. If a university or college in the United States does offer need-based aid to international students, they may have a separate application that you have to complete, and they may ask for financial documents. I will tell you, there are a lot of colleges and universities that will offer need-based aid, but many colleges and universities do not have the resources to offer a quote-unquote full ride to students. They may be able to subsidize as much as half or even 75% of the total cost, but it's very rare that you will find a university that will cover 100% of the costs, particularly at the undergraduate level.
Okay, thank you. We have another one. How should I apply for application fee waivers as an international student?
Every university has a fee or a fee waiver process that's slightly different. Some will automatically waive the fee, while others may require a code for you to enter. Some universities may only provide a fee waiver after you talk to an admissions counselor. Some may not offer a fee waiver at all. That's a question I recommend you ask the admissions counselor. Even if you send them an email asking that information, they can share with you if they have a fee waiver and how that process works.
Thank you. The next question. Can I get a scholarship to study online? Once I have heard from an institution's decision on the financial aid package they are able to offer me, can I ask for more money if it is not enough? We have two questions there in one.
Yes.
Let me read them again. Excuse me. Can I get a scholarship to study online? That's the first one. Once I have heard from an institution's decision on the financial aid package they are able to offer me, can I ask for more money if it is not enough?
So to answer the first question about will scholarships cover online studies, some institutions will allow the scholarship to cover online studies, some will not. If you are awarded scholarship money, particularly now while the COVID-19 pandemic is happening, you will want to ask your institution if the scholarship money can be used to cover online courses or if it is strictly allowed to be used for in-person study. The second part of that question asked, if a student receives financial aid, but it is not enough to meet their financial goals to study at that university, can they ask for more? The answer to that is yes, of course. Many universities, including one university that I used to work at, you were evaluated for financial aid at the moment you applied. And when you were admitted, you were given an initial financial aid offer. That financial aid offer is often determined based upon how you apply. If you don't select the right box indicating what you do or what your studies are on your application, that may prevent you from receiving additional scholarship aid. If you are looking at a university and they offer you aid, and it's a very nice package, but you need just a little bit more, I always encourage to reach out. If $2,000 or $3,000 is a difference that'll make you choose studying at that university, or choosing a different university, or not studying in the United States, many universities, I believe, will find a way, if they can, to find you that additional scholarship aid. I will say, though, with a word of caution, that if you receive a scholarship package and you are looking for a full ride, it is highly unlikely that if you ask for more money, the amount that they come back with will give you a 100% cost of your education. They may come back with some additional money, but again, as I mentioned earlier, a 100% full ride is very, very rare.
Okay, this is one more question. It says, I always heard that students could work full-time, 40 hours during summertime and breaks. You mentioned 28 hours. Are you referring to spring break and Christmas break? Or does that apply to all school breaks?
So you are correct. You are allowed to work full-time during breaks. The immigration policies in the United States technically say a student can work full-time during breaks. However, a few years ago, I'm getting old and I can't remember the exact year, but the United States government updated the Fair Labor Standards Act and determined once an employee works a certain number of hours per week, the employer has to offer benefits such as paid medical leave, health insurance, et cetera, et cetera. That hour threshold is 30 hours. Once an employee offers 30 hours a week, they have to offer benefits to the employee. Therefore, many universities in the United States, not all, but many, have placed a cap on working no more than 28 hours per week, because that still allows a 2-hour buffer that will prevent you from exceeding the Fair Labor Standards guidelines for offering benefits.
Okay, thank you. One more question. Do I have to pay US taxes as an international student?
You have to pay taxes on scholarship money that is awarded if it exceeds the cost of attendance, such as tuition, lab fees, and so on. Again, housing, food, and health insurance are not allowed to be exempt if you get scholarship money for that. If you work on campus, taxes will be withheld and you may be eligible to receive that money back. Many universities will host international student tax assistant workshops where they will help you prepare your tax returns at no cost. And usually, unless you are working so many hours and receive a certain number of income, most of your federal taxes will be returned to you. However, your state and your local taxes usually will not, but it often works out that you don't have to pay in any additional money if you work.
Okay, we have one from Abigail. It says, what education or pedagogy masters does Penn State have?
What education?
Or pedagogy masters does Penn State have?
Oh gosh.
Pedagogy.
Pedagogy. The short answer I'm going to say is a lot. We have graduate courses both at the master's and the PhD level. We have graduate courses in lifelong learning, We have early childhood, mid-childhood, secondary education. We also have a special comparative international education program that you could pursue. If you're interested in the graduate programs at Penn State University, because there are so many, I encourage you to look at our graduate studies webpage at psu.edu.
All right. I have one from Juan Rodriguez. If I have not graduated from high school yet, with how much time do I have to apply to universities?
That's a great question. Many universities have specific admissions deadlines for specific programs, particularly if you're interested in medicine or nursing or business. They may have an earlier application deadline than other programs because of the number of spaces they have to admit students per year and the number of applications they receive. Many universities will look for admissions deadlines in the fall, such as November or December 1st for an early decision. And then by March for a standard decision. Usually, the latest you can apply to a university within the United States is June 1st. Then the reason being, you don't only have to go through the process of applying and being admitted. That is the first step, but then you have to work with the international office to get an I-20, be prepared to apply for your visa, arrange to go to the US Embassy or Consulate to get your visa, then make travel arrangements, and so on. Each university, though, will have the information about application deadlines, both on their application and on their admissions website.
We have one more question. It says, do scholarships and grants increase proportionally to tuition yearly increments?
Usually they do not. Scholarships and grants are usually offered when you are admitted, and it is a flat rate that is applied year after year. In some rare cases, the scholarship may increase to be aggregate with a tuition increase, but I have seen that very rarely over my career.
Okay, those were all the questions in the box. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Marta. And we would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Ryan, for sharing with us all your expertise. We know this is a busy time and difficult time, and we really thank you for being with us, sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. I also would like to thank all the Education USA advisors team that are behind the scenes helping organize these webinars for all our students in the region. And before we finish this this webinar, I will also would like to invite you to the other events that we have in the region. So we know some of you are joining us from different parts of the world, and we know not only from our region, but also other regions. So what we would like to do is to invite you to follow the Education USA Center in your country. Here in this region, we share many of the webinars. We do it regionally, but here I'm just sharing for you the Education USA Mexico events page. So tomorrow we'll have a letters of recommendation. This event is for graduate students, and we know here we have almost all of you are undergraduate students. We also have Instagram live series for studying in the United States. Some of sessions are for undergraduate students, some sessions are for graduate students. So we invite you to follow your advising center in your country so you know what are the activities that you can attend. And as I said at the beginning of the presentation, these sessions are for free. So please join us in this session. And I know it's hard to give an applause here in this Zoom, but maybe with the reaction, we can do this. And thank you, Ryan, again for being with us today. Thank you, Jasmine, Juanes, sharing our applauses for you, Ryan. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to share our last here with our website again. And thank you very much, everyone, for being here.